Good evening, people. This is Carl Wilder and Natasha Cohn from Expat Radio with the show Free Range. And we have got a very, very special guest with us today, Kathleen from Red Tape Translation. I have talked to, emailed, and sometimes had questions with them over the years, but never actually used them. They are the go-to agency if you're in Germany and you need help with the red tape, which, as we mentioned last week, can be endless and challenging. So, Kathleen, what is the most outrageous experience you have had trying to deal with German bureaucracy?
Oh my goodness, the most outrageous experience I've ever had dealing. Well, I found myself in prison once.
Okay, that does it.
But it wasn't it wasn't to my detriment. It was actually, I found myself leading a group of American educational staff around German prisons as their interpreter, and meeting prisoners, speaking to prisoners, interviewing them, touring the premises and things like that. That was fun.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Outrageous bureaucratic experiences. Oh my goodness. Leave it with me for a bit. I'm going to draw a blank.
Well,
Okay. No,
I
all
have
right.
one that has not to do with red tape translation, but it has to do with outrageous bureaucratic experiences.
Okay.
And a friend of mine is a member of the board of directors of a block of flats, and each owner has a small share in the company, 3% per flat or something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And they've just elected a new board of director, and they've just hired a new set of lawyers to deal with everything. And as you know, lawyers in England, it's all about compliance and know your client and make sure money laundering and all this. And so the board of director was asked, as is normal, to furnish a passport.
Okay.
And then the compliance officer in that particular law firm went through all the tenants, who are therefore shareholders, and decided to ask for everybody's passport, even though they own less than 25% of the shares, which is what is required for a passport. And therefore, she asked for the entire French government's passport, because they have 2 flats in
God. Excellent. How did that go down?
I think one of the replies was, "It's not April Fool's Day."
I have been to weddings with couples who forgot their passport on their wedding day. I have seen that happen. And were very, very scared that they wouldn't be able to get married, which would probably have been within the right of the civil servant to say no, but benevolently they were allowed to get married anyway.
Actually, that's interesting you should ask that, because I had the same sort of experience when I got married.
Oh.
And actually, you prove that these 2 people will get married, and you don't actually technically, of course you do, but what happened was, I was at a wedding where the husband had changed his middle name and first name, switched them around.
Yeah.
So he was asked, "Are you sure all the guests will know that you are?" He said, "Yeah." And he kind of, "Well, yeah, I'm standing in front of everybody with my bride. I think they'll know who I am. Okay, you can call me John, you can call me whatever, Duke of York. They'll know who I am. Okay, it's not what's in a name, a rose."
I have once had a couple who couldn't get married because there was a space in the bride's name. So she had 2 names, and on her birth certificate, the 2 names were there without a space, like Dupree without a space. I don't quite know what the name was. I just made that up. And on the passport, the space was there. And due to this inconsistency, they had to firstly get one of the two documents updated. I imagine the passport would be easier before they could get married.
Boy, that
Yeah.
is very specific and pedantic. You get the now. You founded Red Tape Translation, am I correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Do you speak German?
Yes, I would hope so.
Well, I mean, you could found a company and hire German English speakers. You wouldn't necessarily need to. It
No, I
wouldn't be
do.
the first.
Yeah,
Okay. Was
I
it really hard for you to learn? Because for me, I'm picking up Spanish easily. I'm in Spain at the moment, and it comes naturally. German was the hardest thing I've ever tried to do.
I can empathize with that very much. I have to say it wasn't hard because I actually used to have a completely different career. I used to be an opera singer, and
Oh,
Oh,
when I was an opera singer, I sang a lot of German music, and everyone said to me, "You should go hang out in Germany because your voice is perfect for German music." So I spent years and years training with German music and translating German music. And when I got to Germany, I had a good level of German, but saying lots of very useless things like, "Oh, serpent, thou pierce my heart with agony," instead of, and stuff like that. So
you
I had
didn't find that useful? Hmm.
well, in Berlin maybe, but sadly, no, I never did. Mm.
wow. That kind of makes sense, and I can see why you'd want to help people.
Yeah.
Now, do you find a marked difference in the attitudes of the people that you're dealing with, depending on who the person you're representing is from? If they're from the US versus from Egypt versus from Morocco?
Ooh. I have to say that the diversity is not always there, because the majority of clients that I see in Berlin are from there are countries known as privileged countries, as in a certain section of the residence law, they can come to Germany and apply for everything from within Germany. They don't have to do it outside of Germany, which means I'm dealing with US Americans, Canadians, New Zealanders, Australians, etc. And I don't see, and also European citizens who need other bureaucratic things done, but I don't really have that diverse a client range that I could comment on what their attitudes are based on their nationality.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, for me, it was so easy the first time, so miserable the second time,
Oh,
and the third time a little bit miserable, but I got the 5 year. They keep denying me the permanent resident visa for some reason. So I'm going for citizenship.
oh dear. Yeah, go for citizenship. Probably just, I don't know if it has something to do with pension contributions, but citizenship might be easier in that regard.
No, it's not a pension contribution issue. It's just the whim of the person at the desk.
Oh,
And
dear.
you know how much power that they have. I had an attorney the last time, and she said, we are going for permanent residency. You have been here now so many years. They cannot say no. And she sat there and she goes, "Oh, I don't think so. He can get citizenship now, but I won't give him permanent residency."
Goodness.
Yeah.
I'm speechless. You got an immigration lawyer who told you that it would work, and someone still said no. That's
Yeah.
really unfortunate. I have to say, I've never heard of that.
She said this happens sometimes,
Right.
depending on who you get. It's just they decide. You get somebody who likes you, and she goes, "I think this person did not like you."
Was it something to do with your level of German? Did you maybe not convince her that you won German?
I had just taken the test and I passed the B1, which shocked me because I feel like my speech is at sort of A- level, but I passed the test and I had the living in Germany test. I had everything in addition to, at the time, a work contract, et cetera, and nothing.
You got some priors, Carl? You got any priors that we don't know about?
Not that I know about.
We said we wouldn't mention them live, okay?
Fair enough.
I was only arrested once, and that was for passing a police officer on the right versus the left. I mean, it was a ticket.
Was
And
that
he was in an unmarked car, and I was on a motorcycle, and he was in the middle of two lanes. So I ended
Mm.
up, getting the whole thing expunged. But that the guy was just had an attitude. That was it. That's my only criminal background.
All right. Okay, I'm baffled, but I'm really sorry that happened to you. That's really tough.
You never
Yeah,
know. I mean, my friend Ahmed had to leave the country twice. He's from Egypt, and they kept making him leave, and he was very, very persistent.
Mm.
He has a master's degree in green energy, and they will not let him work in that sector. He's now a nurse.
Wow. Okay. Some of these stories just do my head in. Like I remember reading, this is one to do with degree recognition and how Germany just can't
Oh,
get on board with that. But there was a woman to work in her field. She had to show her grade 10, as in her high school leaving certificate for grade 10, but she didn't have grade 10. She only had grade 12, which is like her A levels, but they weren't happy with that. They were only happy with grade 10. So she is now repeating high school in Germany so that she can work in her profession.
oh my gosh.
Well,
I
in the stories, in the extraordinary stories we were asking you at the beginning of the show, I think this is pretty good. This is
Yeah.
I never bothered with my degrees. I mean, I've got 2 master's degrees, and I never tried to get
Mm.
Germany to recognize them because it is such a painful process.
Well, I would have agreed with you. I've gone 15 years in Germany without ever needing my degrees recognized, and I never bothered. And then I found a job just a couple of months ago. I found a job, like a part-time job, but the employer was the Berlin Senate, and it required a degree. And I sent everything in, and I was really excited about this opportunity. And then I got a note back saying, your degree's not recognized, so we can't go any further with your application. And so I have found myself for the first time in 15 years actually going through the degree recognition process, which was actually okay. It was, I mean, it takes a long time. It took 3 months for me to get the certificate, but I didn't need translations. I uploaded everything online. I paid online, and then I just had to sit around for 3 months and wait.
yeah.
That brings me online. Was
Yeah.
it sort of astonishing to you how, when they decided to lock people down, how quickly they were able to get things online?
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
You know what I learned from
It's-
Angela Merkel? When I got here, I wrote a letter to Angela Merkel because this whole, registration thing made no sense to me. It's like, why are we going and we're sitting and we're presenting our lease and we're presenting this and we're presenting that? Why don't you just let us do it electronically and then send us a postcard to the address? If we get the postcard, we're obviously there. We put the digits, sort of like Google does with businesses, and then we're registered. And I got a lovely letter back saying it is a jobs program. Everything, every agency in all of Berlin is ready to go online at any moment. But as people retire, we will begin closing and consolidating offices and slowly roll out the online programs. But we are prepared. We are not living in the 80s as you think. We are ready for this. But if we off or fire all these people, their lives would be disrupted. They would then rely on Job Center, and it would be very traumatizing to the lives of German citizens. And I thought that was an interesting response.
Wow, you got a letter from the Merkel government saying that. That's insane. I do like the developments, the digital developments at the moment. I love this. I just put in my citizenship application a few months back. It worked. The Landesamt für Einwanderung in Berlin, the Berlin Foreigners Office, is slowly digitalizing all its application processes. And last week it just released a few. They work.
Yeah, they do.
It's happening. And the Bund ID thing, where you use your electronic residence card
Yes.
to register for a whole bunch of services, I've actually used it, and it actually worked, like at least 3 times in 2024. Not for exciting stuff, for like tax certificates and certificates of good conduct and things like that, but it works. So yes, I agree with you. It's happening. It happened very suddenly in the last couple of years.
They were
Well,
ready to have it happen.
Go ahead, Jack. Yeah. But it's nice to see one government at least join the 21st century.
Slowly.
Slowly, but still moving in that direction. There are an awful lot of other governments in, as you call it, I'll call it the Western world,
Mm.
who haven't quite reached that level of electronic
Stuff. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Well, this is not a bureaucratic example, but it's a ridiculous example. I was advertising for some staff on Indeed, and they
Mhm.
require you to verify your business. I sent in all of these forms, et cetera, and they
Yeah.
said we would require one more form from you, an electrical bill to prove your office location.
Yes.
And I said, have you not moved into the 90s? You know, we work, remote work. I said, we have no
Yeah.
electrical bill. We're renting a PO box for $29 a month in Kentucky for the business. There is no such thing as an electrical bill. And we are afraid you cannot advertise on Indeed because you have not met our minimum requirements.
Oh dear. Oh dear. And this is Indeed in the States or Indeed in Germany?
This is Indeed in the US.
In the US. Okay.
Yeah.
explanation.
I'm finding with everything I do these days, you have to verify, upload passport, upload this, upload that. They're really trying to get a rein on us electronically with everything we do.
Yeah, you mentioned KYC before, Natasha.
Yes.
And, as in know your customer. And I have had to get to know all of that stuff lately because we've just, at Red Tape, we've just introduced a mailbox service for businesses in Berlin, mainly for example, freelancers who don't want to put their home address on the impressum in their website and on all their correspondence. You know, a lot of people want to start businesses and they want to use home, but they don't want visitors. And I started it because it happened to me. I was, when I started Red Tape, I registered it at my home address. And then I went on parental leave and I was breastfeeding my daughter one morning and the doorbell started ringing and it was people saying, could you please translate my documents? And even after putting notices on the website saying, please don't come around, make an appointment, or there's no need to come around. As the business grew, I continued to get more and more traffic at home. And after a while, I was just, I need, you know, and then I went to co-working spaces. Carl, you've mentioned a couple of co-working spaces, but co-working spaces find me a bit loud. And I talk a lot on the phone every day, so it wasn't really suitable. So for the first time, I have my own office now for Red Tape. And then I started this virtual address for businesses in Berlin as well. And I've had to get to know the whole KYC thing about passports and identifying with signatures and all this kind of thing. It really surprised me. I can think of one client in particular that sent the contract back with just a printed, like no signature on it at all. And then I said, actually, it needs to be a signature. And so then they printed their name using not even a digital signature, but just text, like a PDF text. And I'm like, no, it has to match the signature on your passport. And then they sent it back and it was handwritten, but it was printed. So it didn't match the signature on the passport. And then forth goes a charm. I was like, could you please send me the contract that matches the signature on the passport? And we got a winner after that. But that was a surprise to me.
I may be using your services in the near future.
Oh,
Yes, because last Monday I finally signed into Lycra, Germany, sorry, but of course it's starting in Berlin.
Okay.
And for the time being, it's at my address, but we're going to need a new address. And
if you, I mean, some businesses will never get any foot traffic, but it's all, you know, some people do it because they're concerned about expensive equipment they have stored at home that they don't want people to know where their business equipment is or other
well, I'll give you a good one. Lycra, which has been around for almost 100 years, of which Carl is a member as well, is the International League Against Racism and Anti-Semitism.
Indeed.
It has been around in France for almost 100 years. It's been around, it's in Belgium. Switzerland, Spain, Austria, and the United States. And as of Monday, it's in Germany. And I'm going to need an address where I don't get bricks thrown through my window because
No
people
one's
think
gonna throw bricks through your window.
that it's just anti-Semitism and therefore pro-Israel. And that is not the case
But
at all.
that's not the case. Well, I don't need to explain to you what you're for. I mean, I understand it.
Yeah, I mean, it's anti all form of discrimination, any form of discrimination. I cannot stand, I cannot tolerate intolerance.
Yep.
So
Okay.
it would be nice to have an address that is not actually my home.
It's protected as well. It's in a commercial building that's locked. And yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Although
There we go.
eventually we will have offices, but it's small. We're growing little by little.
That's all the best things start small.
Sorry,
And
I had to
I'm
reach.
Yeah, no problem. But I'm sure I will be using red tape translation as well a lot.
Sure. Be happy to have you.
Yeah, I have not used your service, but I admire your service. Because when I first got here, I didn't know it existed, or I would have called you immediately.
Well, Carl, I think you did, and we didn't answer the phone. I remember going, oh no, I've been trying to contact.
There was some communication issues, yeah, but it wasn't. That wasn't the first. That was the second. The first time I didn't know you existed. Yeah, I've been an expat or an immigrant. I call myself an immigrant for a long time now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean,
how long?
10 years.
10 years. Yeah, you're a veteran like I like me. I've been.
And how many years for you, Natasha?
I was just calculating that. I mean, we did live back in Paris for 2 years, and then we lived in Aix-en-Provence. So all this is France, and I'm French. So, but basically, I left in 1977.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So
you win.
Now, here's one for you, and this actually came up because of Natasha this morning. We're all looking at the possibility of war with the U.S. and Russia. How do you think that will impact those of us in Germany and other countries in the EU if this does happen? World War III. I mean, it is possible with the takedown of Syria, with everything that's going on. I hope it doesn't happen. I want it not to happen, but we have to look at the possibility.
NATO is looking at it within the next 5 years.
Yeah, I noticed an article yesterday encouraging German residents to stock up on, battery operated chargers and expect in the future to maybe, lose electricity for a few days, things like that. They want all the households to be stocked in case of emergencies like that.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to help much if we have a nuclear bomb drop. We're going to sit here with our little wind-up lights in the middle of a nuclear. Yeah.
I don't think a nuclear bomb on Germany is going to happen because
from your lips to God's ears.
Germany has always good relations with both Russia and the U.S., and I don't think either one of them are going for us. I think if there's a nuclear bomb, it's going to happen, in the U.S., in New York or something like that, not Berlin.
We're not
noticing actively fighting with anyone.
Yeah, I'm already noticing a change in sentiment just in the last year or two. This has to do with the recession, of course. It has to do with the fact that there are big mass layoffs in all the tech industry. So many immigrants who came to Germany to take up good jobs. Many of them have been laid off, and I have noticed that we're spending most of our time at the Agentur für Arbeit now, which is the unemployment or the labor agency. I've also noticed that people are scared about the lean towards the right in sentiment. they're concerned because of, we had that incident with the in Potsdam a few years ago with the AfD leaders and other people who gathered for this conference on how to deal with I forget the term that they use, but people who don't integrate properly and Germans who don't have a German background, things like that. Those events have already changed the landscape for immigrants, and I have noticed that 2024 has been a bit tough. Not as many people are moving to Germany. Well, I say that, but then at the end of the year we had the US election, and that kind of changed everything again. But this year has been a bit tough, and there are fewer people, I feel, moving to Germany, and a lot of people who have moved to Germany in the past stuck with no job now and not knowing what happens next and finding it very difficult to find another job. So it's been a weird year already. And
it
then
really has, yes.
Yeah, and then if, of course, as we speculate, something even more devastating happens, then, oh my God, I can't even imagine what that's going to be like for Germany's population with an immigrant background.
Well,
Are you familiar with Christine Anderson?
No.
She is from the far-right party.
Yeah.
And I have been talking to her on Twitter. I'm trying to get her on the show. She is very anti-immigrant, and I want to bring her on and discuss that with her. Her English is excellent. She's all over Twitter and YouTube and all of these other platforms talking about things. And occasionally she'll say something is like, spot on. You are right about that, but not about everything, in my opinion. And so I want to kind of bring somebody on that really looks at it completely differently than I. I think it would make for interesting radio. So Christine, if you're listening after our Twitter conversation, we want you here.
Okay.
Speaking of far right, as you know, my daughter has tours, culinary tours here in Berlin, and all tours tomorrow have been canceled because her tour is in Friedrichshain, and there is a pro-Nazi and an anti-Nazi rally happening there tomorrow. And from what she's heard from her tour guides in the last couple of days, the pro ones have already been showing up and are all over the place. And I asked, isn't that particular flag banned? And she said, well, I don't know what to tell you. So
what's happening right now in Friedrichshain?
Yeah, well, tomorrow.
Oh,
yeah.
tomorrow. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, tomorrow it's happening.
Well, that's my neighborhood. I'll check in on myself and everything is all right.
Indeed.
You won't be having any culinary, that's a really hard word to say, culinary delights tomorrow, Carl. You're not allowed to go on any tours tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah. I right now I'm in Seville, and I'm grateful to be here because this is a very peaceful place right now anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm leaving Berlin tomorrow. Unrelated, of course.
Oh.
I'm going on holiday to England.
Okay.
Oh, so our next broadcast will be from England.
Our next broadcast might even be from Paris. I'm going to Paris first.
Oh.
And we will have one broadcast from Scotland.
That sounds exciting.
Excellent. That's
Yes.
going to be fun. I'm trying to get out of my little unit here in Seville so that I have, the background of the streets or something interesting. But it's cold and rainy today.
Yeah. Can I tell you my really exciting vacation story?
Yes, please.
Sure.
I'm going to the US for the first time ever.
Oh.
And it's I know, it's to meet long lost family members that I discovered online.
Oh, tell us.
So we have to go back to World War II. Don't worry, it won't take forever. This story doesn't take forever. But in World War II, American soldiers came to Brisbane to help Australian troops in World War II. And my grandmother, also named Kathleen, fell in love with an American soldier. His name was Chester Craven, which I think is a really cool name.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they had a baby, my father. Little Johnny was born. And then he said the war ended and people ran through the streets saying the war has ended, but he had to go back to Louisville, which is where he was from. And he said, go get your wedding dress made. I'm going to come back. I'm going to marry you and you and me and little Johnny. It's all going to be great. And she never heard from him again.
Funny that.
Not an uncommon story.
It's not an uncommon story. And he only found out 40 years later when he discovered when the man he thought was his father, who had adopted him a couple of years later, they changed his birth certificate. And when his father died, he found his old birth certificate and asked his mum, why is this birth certificate dated 4 years after I was born? What's with that, Mum? And some of the story came out. But he, apart from knowing the name, he never really found out much else, and he sort of never really pursued it. But when I became an adult, I got a bit curious, and Ancestry.com was getting really big. And so I used Ancestry, and I used volunteers in Louisville at the Genealogy Society who they went to the cemetery for me and took photos of gravestones, and then they looked through the old library microfiche records to find obituaries and things like that. And it took me about 6 months, but I eventually tracked down my father's half sister. And so I am going to Kentucky to meet her for the first time.
Oh, that is exciting.
Yeah.
I think that will be
Yeah.
a nice way to visit America. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of challenges in visiting it as a tourist right now.
Excuse
But
me.
visiting it with someone who wants to see you and has invited you there, I think will be very lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very excited. We're all very excited as well.
Oh
Yeah.
no, it is. It's very interesting. Yes, my sister gifted me a 23andMe so that I could possibly find half cousins from my grandfather.
Okay.
And I haven't found any yet, but that doesn't mean they're not there. It's just that they're French or Swiss or
Yeah.
wherever else he happened to have traveled. So, and not Americans. And so it takes, it's done less in Europe than
Yeah.
it is.
Does that
in
mean you
the-
had to spit into a cup?
So sorry?
Does that mean you had to spit into a cup?
Yes.
Like a
Yes.
DNA test? Yeah. My husband and I did the same thing for Christmas. That's our romantic Christmas present to each other is DNA tests.
Mm. So have
I
you
got-
determined that your daughter is indeed his? No, I'm kidding.
Well, you wouldn't know it because I have two children and one is blonde haired, pale with blue eyes, and the other one is dark hair with dark eyes and dark skin. But they are, in fact, I swear it, both from the same parentage.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah.
My daughter was born with blonde hair and blue eyes. And at the time, the only blonde haired, blue eyed person we knew was the milkman. So
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
And I told my parents that we were gifting each other DNA tests, and they kind of went, "Why are you questioning your own parentage? What's going on here?" But it's not that at all. I'm just curious.
yeah.
Well, I did a DNA test in Germany through my doctor, but it doesn't link up to any database because they don't put my identity into it. They
Yeah.
only put a number that is non-identifying that
Mhm.
only I know,
Yeah.
and then I have to reclaim it that way. It's done very differently in different countries.
Yeah.
So it didn't show me relatives, but it did show me medical trends and a number of other things.
Yep. We decided not to do the medical trends because we don't really particularly think it's very romantic to gift each other medical information about the future, just in case one of us is predisposed to something awful. We went for the purely.
Yeah. Don't worry. My daughter did the medical one and nothing in there that's anything.
La la la. Don't want to know. Piano could
Yeah.
fall.
Exactly. But, she knew, and frankly, she doesn't care.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't really impact me. I have predispositions to things that don't affect me. And, if I continue to live my life in a healthy manner, they may never affect me.
Yeah, fair enough. Doesn't Christmas look different in 2024 than it used to? We're all gifting each other DNA tests and on
And
family
wind up torches.
yes, and emergency equipment. Yeah.
I've never had a wind-up torch, but now I want one just in case. I've got candles. I'm very old-fashioned.
Yep. Mm.
Yes, God knows. God only knows what we're heading into, huh?
Yeah.
For all we know, we're heading into absolutely nothing, by the way. And in 10 years from now, we'll go, yeah, 2025, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I hope you're right.
Me too.
And I know that you despise Donald Trump, but the one thing that he did say, whether he does it or not, remains to be seen, is that he intended to end all the wars and get out U.S. involvement out of all wars, which I would love to see because the U.S. is usually propping up and selling arms to both sides and, profiting from war.
There's a huge difference between getting the U.S. involvement out of all wars and stopping all wars.
Well, the U.S. is usually financing them and selling the arms to both sides. So if the U.S. ends their involvement, it would pretty much stop most of them or diminish their capacity to exist.
Indeed, but it doesn't mean people will stop killing each other.
Well, hopefully it's just, husbands and wives and siblings, the normal type of killing, Greek
Yeah.
tragedy stuff. Yeah. Little patricide, a little things like that. But,
Hmm.
you
Kathleen's
played
listening,
an
going,
opera, you
"Help."
know how much that's a theme.
I'm looking horrified.
You are. Tell me, going back for a half a second here to your previous lives,
Oh, yeah.
opera singer, in what? I mean, you mentioned singing in German. That
Yeah.
brings us to, like you said, the magic flute, of course.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, I've been in the Magic Flute. I've been lots of different things.
And German is, of course, Wagner.
Yes, and I did sing a lot of Wagner. In fact, if I had continued on that track, that probably would have been what I specialized in, because those roles, those big Wagner female roles, they require a certain stamina and a certain voice and a certain, so that was going to be the thing that I specialized in, and I did it. I did some lead roles in the sort of that area for a few years before I stopped. Yes, I did do a lot of Wagner. I also did a lot of Strauss and Weber and various other things. When I worked in opera houses, you just did whatever they needed you to be in. So it was very varied, and it also meant lots of different languages.
Now, my husband, we are lucky enough to live in Berlin, goes to every Wagner opera played. And when I mean every Wagner opera played, he will go and see the same production over and over and over again
Does
at
he
every
travel
show.
around the world as well? Because when I used to sing Wagner, I'd sing it in Singapore, and then I'd sing it in South Korea, and then I'd sing it in some little town in Germany, and I'd meet the same people because some of them travel around the world just to see every Wagner production known to whatever's playing.
No, he sticks to Berlin.
Okay.
I mean, if we're in London, he'll go and see one in London, but of course the price is slightly different.
Wow.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly every year we go to Bayreuth.
Yeah. Okay, I never got there.
But yeah, I will not. I might see a Wagner opera in Berlin, but what puts me off every time, and I dead set against it, are the productions. I will not go see the Meistersinger set in a high school gymnasium.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know what you mean. There's lots of oh my goodness, just the things that you have to do on stage. Sometimes I never got myself, it's pure coincidence that I never got into any productions that really shocked me. I remember the first production I saw in when I was brand new and green in Germany was at the Komische Oper, and it was a very odd performance of, I think it was Handel's Armida. And there was everything. There was onstage abortion. There were people swinging from chandeliers, giving oral sex. There was just everything that you could think of on stage. And I was this little 20-something-year-old trying to get into opera, just going, oh, what am I doing?
I was at the Komischer Oper yesterday to see Chicago.
Something completely different.
Yes.
Do you know, I was twice invited to Bayreuth because my friends wanted me in charge of the picnics.
Oh, that's a fun job.
Well, I got to see a lot of interesting operas, and they wanted me to deal with the food, so they paid all the expenses.
Not bad. Yeah.
I saw some really good productions there, but I do, unlike the both of you, I draw the line at Wagner. I just cannot stand anything he's composed. To me, it sounds like pain on stage, as if somebody is giving me surgery to my brain. I don't know. I hate him.
Okay. It's long. Like, I find that there are moments of exquisite beauty, but they're packed into moments of just long. It's just long. It's really, really long.
Yeah, give me a little Puccini.
And I am the third of this category, which is I absolutely adore everything he's written. I find it it's soul. It just gets to my soul. I mean, I listen to Parsifal, and there are some bits of Parsifal where I realize I've been holding my breath for several minutes. It is amazing.
Really nice. Yeah, that's what you want to hear. That it affects people in that way. Not all the time. It can't possibly affect everyone that way all the time, but there are just moments. There are just moments where it is magical. Yeah.
And it's not bombastic. I mean, Parsifal, it's there are bits that are not bombastic, but the music is just so intense, so passionate, so significant that you just, it's ethereal.
Ethereal. Yeah.
Yes.
I think I was a flower maiden in Parsifal in college. Yeah.
I know what that is.
And I sang Zenta in Flying Dutchman, and that is a good one because it's short, because he wrote it when he was quite young, and so it's only about 2 hours.
Yes. No intervals though.
Yeah.
Actually, that's funny because it's short for Wagner. It's only about 2.5 hours, no intervals, which is about the length of every single other opera not written by Wagner, and they have intervals.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Yep. Anyway, memories.
Do you remember an opera singer named Beverly Sills?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. When I was a kid, the first opera I was supposed to go see was The Barber of Seville, and she was in it. We were at the time in Washington, D.C., or Bethesda, Maryland, I think we lived at. And I had seen her with Sills and Burnett at the Met. She was a friend of Carol Burnett's, and they'd done a special together on television. So I knew I had to see her. And I got the mumps and the measles and meningitis all at the same time. I was hospitalized. I was so sick. So I made my mother deliver a letter to the stage door apologizing for the empty seat.
Aww.
I was unable to attend the opera. At 11:30 at night, a nurse came into my room and she said, and I said, yes. And she said, it's not normally allowed, but there's someone here to see you. And I think even your mother would have she came to the hospital.
Oh.
Beverly Sills came to the hospital?
She came to the hospital. She got my letter and she wanted to see me. And she sang for me in my hospital bed. She sang me a lullaby and she gave me a kiss goodnight. She only stayed for about 15 minutes, but she came to see me. I thought that was the most lovely thing ever.
Absolutely.
Life-changing. What a moment.
So that is what made me discover more opera. Even as a little kid, the tickets back then were about $3. So I would save up birthday money and go to theater, opera, it's all kinds of things. I don't think I ever would have looked at it that much or paid so much attention to it as a very young man had she not come and been so lovely.
Wow. What a story. That's
It is. It's yeah. But we keep forgetting, and especially today with what are known as influencers.
influencers. Yeah.
Thank you.
Influencers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is so ridiculous. But anyway, whatever. But
Right.
stars are people too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and
They
and
are.
they get and they get hurt, and when we when people write stupid things to them, like I saw, whatever. I mean, I saw you yesterday on television. You look so fat. Oh, thanks a lot. All these things hurt.
Oh, I've got some stories.
It's a
When
good
you
thing
were
you're on
sending
a
people
show.
out your letters like that? Are you kidding?
No, but I've had people come up to me, like while I am walking off stage, come up to me and say, "Look, I think it's so fantastic. You've managed to lose so much weight, but you've still got this. Still got these flappy arms, and I just think I'd like to give you some yoga exercises to see if you can work on removing that, that flappy skin from your arms." I'm like,
Oh,
I'm just coming off stage, just coming down from doing a performance, and I get that. That's
How
oh,
lovely.
oh,
Yeah.
people can be horrible.
Yeah, we're all there. You see, I've lost a lot of weight lately, and I have the same thing, this stupid thing that won't go away.
Who cares?
Well, I don't care. My husband doesn't care. My children don't care. My friends don't care, and everybody else can forget it.
I guess the thing my acting teacher used to say to me, though, is that people buy a ticket to watch you on stage. And when they buy a ticket, they buy the right to think about you whatever they want. They can love you, they can hate you. That's their right. And you're giving yourself to them when you're on the stage, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to be like, the mantra she used to use was, "I am all I have, and I'm enough."
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
They have the right to think about you, but I don't think they have the right to communicate
Oh,
their thought.
nice if security had made that happen, but never mind.
Yes,
You
indeed.
know,
Indeed.
there are performers I like, performers that leave me cold. I don't write the ones that leave me cold and they don't like you. There's absolutely no point to anything like that. I just don't go to Tom Cruise movies.
Now, read Tom Cruise.
Ooh.
I unfortunately don't know him personally. I know his church very well because
Yes.
because my mother's sister's side of the family was and is completely in it.
Okay.
Yes, very much so. And that side of him, I'm not impressed with. But I'm impressed with a lot of other sides of him. For instance, there are often stories about him on set being particularly kind to workers on the set and things like that. And his beliefs are his beliefs. And as long as he doesn't step on my toes, I couldn't care less. His kindness and his empathy, his sympathy, and his consideration of others is the only thing I look at.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear similar things about Keanu Reeves. He apparently does very
Oh,
generous.
no, he's unbelievable. I
Another
mean,
league
yeah.
of kindness. Yeah.
I don't know either one of them. I used to cater for a lot of celebrities when I lived in New York.
Mhm.
Press actually called me the celebrity caterer. And I
Nice.
had a couple of clients who are my absolute favorites, and my favorite person on earth to work for was Joan Rivers. She was so lovely. She was so kind. She was so caring. The first time I was on her staff for Thanksgiving dinner, she had this huge table. There were multiple caterers with different parts of the meal to, deliver. And I was on all of the past hors d'oeuvres. Someone else was responsible for the roasted meats, etc. And we worked well together. It was a great meal. Everybody was very happy, and she'd asked us to prepare a separate meal for later in the evening. We had to have duplicates of everything. So after the first meal was served, all of these wiggity wigs laughing at each other's jokes, she said, please reset the table. Thank you very much. That looks great. Now would everyone sit down? And she went in the kitchen and started serving us. She goes, nobody comes to my house and doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving. And so all of us who had cooked for her and were the servers all sat down at her table and she served us.
Aw.
Then she said, I have someone else coming in to clean up tomorrow. All we do is put away leftovers. And by that, I mean, I have these containers, you take them. I don't want them in my house. I'm not getting fat. And we packed up containers of food. We took it all home. She stood at the door, gave everybody a hug, a kiss, and $100 tip.
Oh, yes.
So when Joan called, I always went. She was the most lovely human to work for.
Oh,
Exactly. That's what counts. I've heard the exact opposite, for instance, from Jennifer Lopez.
Yes. Yeah. I
Never
have
worked for her.
about insisting on having white dressing rooms with white everything
And she doesn't speak to the staff, and the staff isn't allowed to speak to her.
Oh, that would be Oprah Winfrey. Yeah, I remember her. Whew, what a piece of work she is.
Yeah. So
Well, if I'd ever been a big opera diva star, I would have been more like Joan Rivers. I would like to think, anyway.
I'm sure
Or
you
Beverly
would have.
Hills.
We will never know, but yeah.
Yeah. So stars are people too, she said.
Now, with red tape translation, do you guys handle literally anything, or is it only German bureaucracy? So, for instance, if I needed documents translated, would we come to you?
Of course. Yes, we do certified translations or regular translations. I have to say, the trend is that we only really do certified translations these days, but we do many of them, and they're generally what's needed when it comes to bureaucracy. So yes, document translations. We do interpreting, which means we get to go all sorts of interesting places and help people with their appointments in person. We do coaching on anything to do with German bureaucracy. We're different to a relocation agency. We don't just have a big package price and we take it entirely off your hands. We're little. So we coach with you and we show you how to do it yourself so that next time you know how to do it yourself. That's kind
There's
of
there's a Facebook page called Berlin for Beginners.
Yeah, I know it. And I know Carol too.
And there's an awful lot of people in there that ask for this kind of service.
Yes.
Constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly.
The challenge
So
is often they go with one of those, I forgot what they're called, but co-tasker type of agencies. And
Yeah.
they hire people who don't actually speak German or at an A1 level because they're cheap. So a lot of those people are looking for free or super cheap. And I don't know what your prices are, but I assume they're not, €15 to go for a 3-hour appointment.
No. And there's enough work out there for everyone regardless of what you need. Some people are looking for someone because they don't quite feel confident going there, but they don't need someone who is absolutely well-versed in immigration processes and things like that. They just need someone to hold their hand. And if you can get someone from co-tasker who can do the job, great. We are professional interpreters, which means, if we get ourselves into sticky situations at these offices, which does happen, we know exactly how to handle it and what to do next. And that's the difference.
What are the sticky situations?
Oh, well, you keep asking me for outrageous stories and I can never think of any when prompted, but now a whole bunch have come into my head.
All right.
Sometimes people get into fights while we're in the room with them. I remember once being in it. So I do a lot of legal interpreting as well, which means I help people buy apartments and they go to the notary's office. And when you buy an apartment in Germany, a notary will read out the entire contract in German. And if you don't understand German, you are required to have someone interpret the contents of the contract. So these appointments can go for hours. If the contract is 30 pages long, it can be a very long appointment. But sometimes people have fights. They're trying to negotiate terms. And I remember once being in an appointment where there were swear words flying back and forth, and someone saying, also, I'm not going to repeat what was said, but there was screaming, there was shouting, there was walking out. And if you went with someone from co-tasker, it's very likely that they might freeze and not know how to react in that situation. But
Yeah.
we have seen everything and we know how to handle it and we know what to do. So if things get tough, we're a good ally.
Yeah,
Good.
this is good. I had, fortunately, my neighbor helped me when the lockdowns came and I had to go on unemployment. I
Yeah.
had my neighbor Daniel come up and help me with that, because just doing it online was kind of traumatizing for me because I hadn't yet attended German classes.
Yeah.
And so during the lockdown, I was able to do that. Und ich kann sprechen Deutsch, aber nicht gut verstehen. Sehr gut.
Very nice.
We have Penelope, of course.
Yeah.
Our next door neighbor, who's English but has been here since since she was 18, so speaks German fluently, and she's our local resident translator.
Yeah. And so if as you stay in Germany, you build up a network of people like that who can come in and help. When you're new in Germany, you got no one.
Absolutely.
Well, I did know them when I was new in Germany because I have two cousins in Berlin, one of whom was an English teacher. But she made it very clear that she does not get involved in that kind of thing, and I should not expect her to.
Yeah. Oh, that's respect. You were respectful of her boundaries there. That's good.
She told me that before I moved here. She said, I do not translate official letters. I do not attend appointments with you. You must hire someone for that type of thing, because I have been here my whole life and the German bureaucracy still scares me to death, and I can't think in any language.
I know a lot of Germans who are scared to death. In my own household, I, the non-native German speaker, am responsible for all the bureaucracy because my native German-speaking husband doesn't want anything to do with it. So sometimes when we coach people on topics like, I've got this letter from the Finanzamt and I don't know what they want from me, and can you tell me what to do? Or similar topics, or dealing with the unemployment agency and things like that. Sometimes it turns into what we call visa therapy.
Right.
Which is a lot of reassuring people that nothing drastic is going to happen and that there is a way to fix this, and here's how we're going to do it, or this is what we're going to try, and if that doesn't work, we'll try this. That's a lot of the work as well.
That kind of makes sense. Oh, go on.
So sorry, I was going to ask, your website, is it redtapetranslation.com?
Yep.
In one word?
Yep. I probably shouldn't have chosen such a long company name. It's a real pain to type out, but I didn't think
yeah, don't worry about that. I mean, red tape, so www.redtapetranslation.com.
Yes, that's it.
Well, that's very good. Yeah, and very important. But I suppose that if you type red tape translation in Google search or something like that, you would come up with you.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. We've been around for 15 years now, and we've been on Google Maps and things like that we've got about 300 reviews there. So yes, if you typed in red tape translation, it would show
okay,
up.
But that's important we seem to have lost Carl, but I'm sure he'll be back. So that's important for everybody to know, that red tape translation is how to find you, because I can tell you, if we didn't have Penelope, I would have I would have looked for you.
I also feel that and I choose people to work with at Red Tape who are compassionate and who are, most of us are immigrants ourselves. Most of us have gone through all of this stuff, and most of us all of us, I would say, completely understand what our clients are thinking when they call us and they're like, oh my God, I've got this problem. Sometimes they don't want to open their mail. The post is building up and they're just like, I can't open this. It's too hard. And we all get that more than you would understand. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I noticed, for instance, in my particular case was I got a bill from my I broke my leg in 2024, and I got a bill from the rehab because I was there as a private patient.
Mhm.
And I thought it was covered by TK, but it wasn't. So I sent TK the bill, and they said we don't cover it. And I thought no more of it.
Hmm.
And next thing I I received was
Oh no.
yeah, see you in court type of thing,
Yes.
And I thought, wow, there's no middle ground, is there? It goes, it's not, reminder, 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 reminder. No
No,
reminder.
I actually used to work as a debt collector in Australia.
Oh,
It was a sort of a side job while I was going through university, and I used to work in a lot of call centers, which in Australia is actually quite highly respected and helpful, and not like German call centers, which are just it's the I don't know.
Yes, yes, yes.
I want to work in German call centers. Anyway, my job was to call people whose payments, maybe their direct debits had failed or they hadn't paid their bills or whatever. It was basic debt collecting, but on the phone. And we would call so many times before it ever got that far. And we would write notes about all the calls that we made, and there was a really good level of customer service there. And then I got to Germany, and the same thing happened to me. I signed a contract that was auto renewing, and I didn't realize it. And I thought I was being clever by not giving them my bank account details and only paying in cash, but that just meant I got bill after bill after bill. And I ended up the same as you, getting letters from debt collection agencies and things like that. But I'd moved house 3 times since the debt had originated, and not once had anyone picked up the phone or sent me an email. It was just letters that never arrived. It baffles me that companies don't think to pick up the phone.
Yeah, it went straight from the bill to one of those court things.
Yeah, like the Mahnung or the Mahnungsverfahren with the court.
Which, of course, we paid immediately, but I just thought, no middle ground. Not that I was looking for a middle ground, but I just would have liked a confirmation that I did owe this money.
Yeah.
But so
I had a big problem with the TV tax because I didn't know it existed. So I got here and I got these letters asking me for this money, and I just assumed they were a scam. They were in German. I hadn't signed a contract with anyone yet. So why would I be getting this kind of money? It was only, I think, 6 months down the line, the finance seized my account and took the money.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Things like this. The phrase I hear come out of immigrants' mouths so often is, "No one told me that. No one told me this was going to happen." And that's a lot of what we do in the coaching that we do is proactive. Oh, you're a teacher, you're a freelance teacher, then you should know that you have to pay into the pension. No one's going to tell you that, but sort it out. Or if you deal with this organization, this is what's going to happen, or this is what we think is going to happen, and just watch out for this. Or if you start a business in Germany, you should know that in about the 2nd or 3rd year of doing your taxes, they'll suddenly ask you for prepaid income tax, and it might be the difference between going under or not. You need to prepare for this. There's so many things that happen in this country that no one tells you about. Haftpflichtversicherung is another one, like private liability insurance, where if you it's so cheap and it's so easy to get. It's like $50 a year or something. And if you don't have it and you do what I did, which is my bike got caught in the train tracks and I crashed into a car with my head, and I was all right, but the car did not do well, and I didn't have Haftpflichtversicherung. And my German boyfriend, who was now my German husband, said, "Oh, it's okay, you've got Haftpflichtversicherung." And I'm like, "What is that? Why doesn't anyone tell you that you should get that, and that it's easy to get, and that if you break someone's Ming vase, that it'll cover it?" Stuff like that.
That
I
was
don't
something
have
I
it.
Oh,
I don't have it. After this show, I shall immediately jump and get it for everybody I've ever known.
You can get it for your pets, and you can get it for your kids.
Yeah. I have it for my dog because it's required that you have it for your dog. I didn't know this insurance existed until I took my dog to the vet for his vaccination, and he told me, "Do you have a copy of your insurance?" I said, "What insurance?" "Well, for the dog, his liability." Then I found out that humans should have it as well, and we got a policy together.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not aware that it's compulsory for people to get, but my God,
Compulsory for pets. So we got a joint policy.
great.
Covers me and him.
I have, what do I have for cozy? What's it called? It's not called Paco, but it's called something like that. You get a medal with a number, and it's
Oh, maybe you registered your pet for a tax or something like that.
yeah, I don't know, whatever it is. Well, I'll have a look at what you said, personal liability.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
it actually is a good idea.
Yeah, we also we've started just in the last year doing a free, like every fortnightly newsletter where I write articles about all this weird stuff that affects expats in Germany, and yeah, people join up to the newsletter. So every 2 weeks they get weird but very relevant things like, here's how you change your gender on your passport in accordance with this new law in Germany, or here's what to do if your child is about to start school, here's what to expect, those kind of things.
Okay.
Yeah,
I want that newsletter.
me too. I was just thinking, I want that newsletter.
newsletter.
Absolutely.
How do we
Oh,
sign up for that newsletter?
please do, because I love
How?
it, because I really
How do
enjoy
you do it?
How do you do
How
it?
do
You
you
go
sign up?
onto your webpage?
Yeah, you can, if you load the website, there'll be a pop-up that comes up and says sign up for the newsletter, or it's also at the bottom of the website as well. Just sign up for it, because it's mostly me that does the content, and I just love diving into these things. Like things for I think a couple of weeks ago it was, can you actually freelance on a working holiday visa or not? No one's been able to answer that question for years. Stuff like that.
Well, these are really important things that everybody should know.
Yeah.
And even Germans, for that matter.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. I've learned how much my family didn't know because they just assumed things were very different than the way they actually are. So in talking to Christian and Anna, I learned that they had no idea what challenges there are for anyone trying to immigrate.
Yep.
And not just immigrate, but live.
Yep.
I mean, you know, like I say, people who have, like you say, the gender change on your passport, you don't have to be an immigrant to need to know that. Quite on the contrary.
Indeed. Yeah, that's right. And I had a really nice moment when I have a client, and she has been my client for I think 12 or 13 years now. And when I first met her, she was brand new in Germany, and I helped her set up her business. In Germany, we talked to the Finanzamt and got her tax number and all those kind of things. That was our first meeting. And 12 years have gone by, and we've gone through every single residence permit with her since. And she just got her permanent residence, and she's getting ready to do citizenship. And I'm like, mate, when you finish citizenship, we'll have done the full circle. You will be like cradle to, not grave, but you'll be like the most consistent client that we've had. It was really exciting.
Yes,
I
indeed.
am looking forward to citizenship. I would like to give up my U.S. citizenship. I'm done with that country.
You're done. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, my husband, I'm French, so I'm an EU citizen, but my husband has a choice between German citizenship or French citizenship. And he's chosen German very wisely because he needs to be B1, and having a B1 French might help him understand when I lose my temper and start swearing.
Clever man.
But a German, of course, will help him live in this country, which is where we live and where we plan to stay. So he's doing German citizenship.
That's great.
So we all live in Germany, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go around. Start with you, Kathleen. What to you is the best thing about living in Germany? Your favorite thing about being here?
I actually feel like my quality of life here is healthier and better than it would have been if I had continued living in another country. I feel like the way that we live here, just simple things like I don't have a car. I ride my bike everywhere. We live in an area where there are loads of green parks. When I wanted to have children, there are maternity benefits and parental benefits that meant that I could do it the way I wanted to do. I feel like my life has been very good. Germany has been very good to me, actually. So I know that's actually a whole bunch of things and not just one thing. But
That's okay. A whole bunch is fine.
Yeah.
Natasha, what about you?
I cannot explain what draws. Well, I've been coming to Germany, to Berlin. Sorry, Berlin, since 1981. Okay, that we met the Germans, which we collectively call the Germans, in 1980, or rather, my sisters both met the Germans in 1980 on the Croatian island of Hvar. And so we've known the Germans, quote unquote, since then. And we would visit them, all three of us, at different times between 1981 and 1990. And the reason I stop at 1990 is not because we've stopped seeing them. As a matter of fact, I'm having dinner with most of them tonight. But because in 1990, the wall came down, I moved to Berlin. It was meant to be a permanent move. But then I went to the Deutsche Institute and met my now husband. And I don't know what it is about Berlin, but for me, I feel safe, cocooned, incredibly comfortable, secure. It's when we drive up the 115 to drive into Berlin, both Adam and I feel alive again. And we drive down the 115, leaving Berlin, we both practically have tears in our eyes, which, by the way, will happen tomorrow when we leave Berlin. We cannot wait to come back. It is our heart. It is our home. And there's almost no explanation, unless, of course, you count that Berlin is an unbelievably open, tolerant city.
Yes. Yeah. I agree.
And that is huge for us, you know. As a French person, people judging me is, in France, everybody judges everyone else. In England, when I first moved to England in 1991 to live with my now husband, I was appalled at how neighbors were strangers to each other. I immediately changed that and got to know all my neighbors.
Good on you. Yeah.
But in Germany, it's just a community feeling, and especially since I knew Berlin before the fall of the wall, and living in West Berlin, I mean, you barely locked your doors. You know, I had instances of friends going on holiday and leaving their front door wide open, and the only thing that changed is all the leaves came in through the door, you know. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
amazing.
I actually came for the healthcare. A big part of my motivation was the fact that the U.S. has one of the worst healthcare systems on earth.
Oh yeah.
And I have an anterior implant in my right foot.
Yeah.
And it was crushed by a car, so my bones are fake, but it works wonderfully. You can't tell. I can't tell. I forget about it, but I was about 2 years on crutches with a couple of surgeries. And my health insurance company said, no, we cannot cover the cost of this. It's $20,000 for this piece of metal. Yeah. It's not covered. I had to pay it, which, pretty much wiped me out. And then I found out that they had purchased this implant, which was custom made, from a laboratory in München, and they had paid €300 for it.
Oh my God.
So the insurance company profited, 19,700 on this. I sued them, of course, But everything that happened to me with the U.S. insurance disgusted me further. When someone you love dies, it's $20,000 to reclaim the body from the hospital. When I needed an inhaler, my insurance company said this general cheap inhaler was non-formulary, and the cost was $250 US. I flew to Spain and picked up a 5-year supply for less than what it would have cost me to make the copayment monthly. That kind of thing. So I wanted to get out of the US for many reasons. And so I came for the healthcare, but I stayed for the parks. I'm with you, Kathleen. This guy and I, there's a dog run right by my house. There's 3 parks within walking distance. It's amazing to have so much green space. We're lucky where we are in Seville right now because I'm 5 minutes from the river, which is the longest park in Seville. So when we finish this recording, he'll go running today because he loves to go running.
Perfect.
The only time on my lap, as you can tell.
Carl, I actually worked as a medical interpreter for a woman from New York who, similar to you, she looked into getting a certain type of surgery in the US and was quoted, 5 or 6, I think 5 figures. And then she found what do they call it? Chefarzt, Oberarzt, like the chief doctor treatment in Germany for, I think the operation would cost her 4,000. So she flew over on frequent flyer points and stayed in Germany in a hotel for 2 weeks and hired me as an interpreter for the whole time. And the whole trip cost her maybe $7,000 instead of the 20, 30 or 40,000 that she was quoted in the US.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now we've seen what happens when people get very angry about the U.S. healthcare with the gunning down of the United CEO. And I don't know if you're aware of this, Natasha, but someone has taken pictures of all of the CEOs of all of the U.S. health insurance companies, plastered them across New York City everywhere, wanted for murder. And their pictures and as much information as could be gleaned about them, in some cases home address, they're all over New York now. My friends have been taking pictures and sharing them with me. So I think the healthcare industry in the U.S. may be due for a little bit of an overhaul when you've got these people on wanted posters, wanted for murder.
Yeah, good Lord.
I do. I agree with you, Carl. It's, I mean, when I lived in the US, which was basically from the mid-70s to the mid-80s, of course, we had medical coverage, but even then it wasn't as bad as it is now.
No, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. Once Obamacare hit and it was mandatory, the insurance companies started covering less and less and less, raising co-payments higher and higher and higher because they had a captive audience. You had no choice. You had to buy from one of them. So if everybody raised their rates and covered less, you could get no coverage from anyone, but you're forced to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say what is happening. I mean, yes, I don't like Trump, but I guess, advantage of having Trump is that we really have absolutely no idea what he's going to do in the next 4 years. The sky's the limit. It could go one way or the other, or no way. Most presidents, they show up. We barely know about the fact that they're there,
Well, if you look at his first 4 years, he mostly tweeted. He did very little.
Well,
he did very little.
Yeah, he did very little, but I have the feeling he's doing more now, and I don't know what he's going to do. And it's a little bit like opening a pack of Cracker Jacks. There's a prize in there. Sometimes they're really good prizes, sometimes they're not. So we have no idea what's coming in the US in the next 4 years. But we shall see. It's a little bit like a new TV reality show.
Well, that is unfortunately the case in the US. Politics does feel like a reality show. It's hard to believe some of these people are real.
Oh, yeah.
The way they behave. I mean, the corruption is just slapped in our faces on a daily basis.
Oh, absolutely. And Yeah, I mean, talk about reality. Have either one of you seen the film Apprentice?
No,
Yes,
no,
I
not at
saw
all.
it. It was, I mean, it was a wholly imaginary film in that no one knows what these conversations were or exactly what took place. So it is an imaginary uh, relationship. I mean, the relationship was real between Roy Cohn and Donald Trump, how Roy Cohn mentored and influenced him. Now, we don't know what part or portion of that is true because these were private conversations.
But we
They weren't,
do know, you're absolutely right. They were private conversations between the two of them, but we do know what Cohen um, said to others.
right. We know what Cohen said to others. We know what his ex-wife said to others. And so we have a sense of some of what happened, but we don't know all of it. I mean, one of the things they made a big point of, Donald Trump does not drink because his brother was an alcoholic. He will not touch alcohol. And from what I hear, won't touch drugs of any kind, not even medical drugs for blood pressure or anything else. He just won't do it because of his brother. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing. You know, I don't know what his conditions are. Uh, Being as he's an old man who eats McDonald's and KFC, I'm guessing his health is not great, but I don't know.
But yeah, we don't know. But it made sense. The film made sense.
Mm.
You know, it.
Yeah, I guess it made sense. I mean, it didn't really enlighten me as to anything. It was like, yes, we know Roy Cohn mentored him. We know this was what Roy Cohn was like. But it didn't enlighten me in any way.
Well, it did. It explained to me. Well, to me, I rather saw what may have influenced Trump into becoming who he is today.
Oh, there was definitely influence, definitely
Yeah,
influence.
yeah.
But, you know, I also, again, at Joan Rivers' house, saw Trump and Hillary Clinton sitting side by side 3 Thanksgivings in a row, laughing at each other's jokes and just the best of friends. They adored one another, and now they're quote unquote public enemies. Part of me thinks they're still best friends and they're laughing at us in private. Can you believe they believe that, you know, I'm not involved in this? They have extensive business dealings together, as the Panama Papers showed us. Their money is tied together, the Clintons and the Trumps. Their children were raised together and used to be best friends. So I wonder how much of the entire political scene is just theater to make us think that there are two sides when there's really only one side, the corrupt side.
Well, as much as stars are people too, so are politicians.
I'm not sure about that.
I mean, your political image is different from your personal image. You
Yeah,
know,
of course.
I'm not sure that some of them even have a personal image. I mean, I've testified in front of Congress. I used to be very much an activist for food insecurity issues. And I couldn't even get Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi to look up from their cell phones. You know, this
well,
was supposed to be the party of caring. And it was at the time that Schumer was raging against Russia for having the wrong yogurt for the American Olympic players. You know, they kuvits all the time. They focus on the wrong issues. And I think Americans have had enough of it.
apparently not. One would think.
Well, I think they've had enough of it. I don't know that they know how to respond to it or how to change it, but I think they've had enough. And I think this incident of violence was an indication of that. We've had enough,
Mm.
you know, and it would not surprise me at all to start seeing politicians gunned down in the streets.
Oh, for God's sakes, don't say things like that.
There
Well,
is
if they start with a couple that I like, I mean, there were 3 shooting attempts at Trump,
Yes.
you know, so
And
it's
they
already
missed
begun.
everyone. I mean, have guns, but at least know how to use them.
They
I'm
did
kidding.
miss everyone. Well, one of them, you know, flicked his ear because his head jerked at that time. I saw that videotape. But yeah, they're not necessarily good shooters. But I think this will not be the end of it. I don't think Trump will be the last person they try to kill.
You know, I don't even want to talk about it. I mean, so far we've talked about um, possibility of war coming. We've talked about the state of the healthcare. Now we're talking about, politicians and everything. I think
Real issues that matter to people.
no. I think we should just go back to how to get out of the United States and come and live in Germany. That sounds like a really good subject.
Well, I'll give one bit of advice, and then I'll let Kathleen log into that. Do not, under any circumstances, apply from where you are living. Everyone I know that applies in the U.S. is automatically turned down unless they are a physician or a very high-profile person. And I've known many. I was turned down when I applied from the U.S. just within days. And then I came to Germany, and once I was here, I got a 5-year visa.
Yeah,
Really?
absolutely. Yes. Don't apply for from the United States. Go to wherever you want to go on a tourist visa. Once you are there, apply. And we cannot emphasize that enough.
Okay, I'm not sure I agree with that 100%. Maybe things have changed, but my experiences leading people through this process, sometimes I do help them from the US, where they go to the German consulate or the German missions in San Francisco or various other places, Washington. They've all managed to get their visas there. I mean, I generally deal with self-employed people, but I also think that the process for employment permits or visas, if you're applying from outside of Germany, is getting a lot better, even with the embassies and consulates. Having said that, you're probably right. As Americans, or if you are one of these privileged countries where you do have the option to come over and apply from within Germany, it is cutting out the middleman. You don't always save yourself a lot of time, but you certainly cut out a whole level of bureaucracy that may or may not work in your favor if you leave out the embassy or consulate altogether. Sometimes it's quicker, though. Would you believe?
Yes, but what Carl and I are talking about is in the last 2 months.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've had friends be rejected within days after having applied at the
almost immediately. I have a friend in New Orleans who went in to apply, and he said he was told, "We are not accepting even those now. You are not. We're not doing it. If you are determined to make this move, you must go to Germany and apply from there. We are overwhelmed with applications." A lot of people decided when Trump was elected that was the time to leave.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And the embassies, once they get overloaded, of course, they're going to try and get rid of whatever work they don't have to do, because Americans have the option to go to Germany and leave them out of it. They're going to encourage them to do that. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's true.
It's in the last 2 months. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and I know a lot of actors who are trying to go to England, which is nigh on impossible because they don't. England is ridiculously hard to get into unless you are sponsored.
Yeah, I've heard that. It's also very expensive and it takes a very long time, and they withhold your passport for the entire time.
And it's not part of the EU, so it's totally, well, I mean, it doesn't help you in terms of the EU.
It's the whole I can't speak another language thing that makes them want to go to England, because they don't want to learn another language, and they don't want to try. They want to go where they think it's going to be easy, and they've got the money to do it. I'm talking actors who've had real careers, and they just want to go where they feel comfortable.
By the way, this is another outrageous bureaucracy story. I have a client who waited 3 years for an appointment at the foreigner's office in Berlin.
Oh, that's nice.
3 years. He was in limbo for 3 years. To be fair, he didn't follow up. He could have followed up, but he was, this particular case, he was waiting on a type of permit that is very, very beneficial, and he wanted to wait it out, and he waited 3 years, and then they randomly offered him appointment 3 years later.
Yeah.
What
nice?
What permit is it that's so beneficial? Maybe I should get that.
No, it's the Brexit one.
Ah,
Unavailable
okay.
anymore. But this application was from 2020, so he waited and waited and waited and waited and waited.
Well, my husband's just sent all of his application to become a German citizen, and that is exactly what he's doing. He's waiting.
Oh, he's waiting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I put my own application a few months ago. I'm happy to wait. I'm not in any rush.
No. Every time he goes to the post office, he says, my German passport will be there. He's joking, of course, but
Well, you
I'm
know,
going to see my.
I struggled
Yeah.
with German so much. I spent a year in school. Ein
Mhm.
Jahr lang.
Oh, yeah.
It was so hard for me. And after passing the test, I told my attorney who was going to be helping me with the citizenship, I got it. I got the B1. And she said, you know, there is an exemption because you have dyslexia.
Mhm. Ah, I saw you mention that on social media the other day. Yeah.
Right. And it's like talk about things people don't tell you. She knew
Mhm.
this. She knew I was in school. She knew I was studying German. And she never told me until I had already passed the test.
And then it wasn't
Nice.
really necessary anymore.
Right. Something that I will never understand. And then I said, well, what law is it? Can you show me just in case there's a problem? She said, there would be no problem. You know, my grandmother was German, of course, Karl Wilder. So the problem with that type of citizenship is papers. Two
Mm.
world wars, not much paper exists anymore.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah.
Mm.
Or it gets locked in a vault, like my father's real birth certificate that no one ever revealed to him. Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Right.
But
That would have made your father an American citizen
maybe.
automatically.
Well, he
Yeah.
wasn't. No, he was in Australia his whole life. He never
No,
lived.
no,
in the-
no.
It doesn't matter if he
Doesn't
is the
matter.
child of a U.S. service member. Citizenship is given to
Automatic.
you. You can apply for it. I don't know why on earth you'd want it, but you can apply for it.
You can
Be
apply for
aware
it.
that if you apply for it and you get it, they will double tax you.
Yeah,
The
I know.
U.S. is the only country to do that.
I don't think he's 80. He's not gonna. He's
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
You don't have to. He doesn't have to get it for you to get it.
No. And my brother has
You saying I
I-
could get American citizenship?
yeah, you're
If
an
you
American
wanted it,
citizen.
yeah. I don't know why
Yeah.
you would, but you could.
Yeah.
On what grounds? On me having a grandfather who's a.
No, you have a father who's an American citizen.
Ah, I see what you're saying. Ah,
Because it's automatically
oh,
conferred. He
Yeah,
doesn't
it's-
even have to do the application. You just have to prove his parental.
Yeah.
oh, well, I'm not sure that that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, my brother has
I don't
5
recommend it,
children.
but, you know, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I would have 4 passports. Woo! That's exciting.
Yes, I
How many
only
do I
have
have?
3 citizenship.
Wow.
I have one.
I could
3.
have 4.
You have 3. I'm gunning for 3 with the German citizenship. I think 4 might be pushing it, but who knows?
Well, with the German citizenship, I would have 4. Yeah, 4.
You have 4.
Right.
Wow.
Argentina, Turkey, U.S. now, and Germany would give me a 4th.
Congrats. But you did say you're planning on giving up your US citizenship.
Yeah.
Yeah. That costs money though.
Well, it does and it doesn't. I discovered a little loophole to that. You have to buy your freedom from the IRS, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you refuse to file taxes for more than 3 years, they will revoke your citizenship and you don't have to pay.
It's handy.
No.
Any other consequences to having your citizenship revoked?
No, a couple of friends of mine have had it done so far. They traveled to the U.S. to visit their family on their German citizenship. Never a problem.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go.
So they
Who-
will revoke it, which would be kind of fun. I've been excommunicated from a church. I might as well get a passport revoked.
Would you have to declare that on any sort of future application forms that you've had citizenship revoked in another country?
Nope. Not if it's revoked for criminal activity, yes. If it's any other reason, no.
Okay. Thumbs up. Go for
Yes, indeed.
it.
my parents were Americans. Both my sisters are Americans. I lived with a green card in the United States almost 10 years, so I had plenty of time to apply for citizenship. I never did because, and it turns out I was right, when I left age 22, 23, I knew I was never going to live in the United States again. And I never did. I'm 62, so that was 40 years ago. And for the last 40 years, I have lived all over Europe, but not in the United States. So having an American citizenship wouldn't have really helped me at all.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Sure, it probably would have helped me back in my opera days, having all these different citizenships. Working as a guest opera singer in different countries is really complicated if you're not European. And the opera scene in America is really interesting. It would have probably helped a lot to be an American as well, a US American.
Yeah, my friend Rachel Burser is an opera teacher in Switzerland, and she had an American citizenship, and now she has the Swiss.
Okay.
I've had that. Swiss. I'm Swiss since, my grandfather was Swiss. My mother was Swiss. I'm Swiss.
Okay.
Yeah.
What a fascinating mix of nationalities.
Oh, yeah. When you get, most of us are not one thing or another. Most of us are a combination.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I mean, Australia was a colony at one point, and then when it started being settled, you had people from all over. You had the Aboriginals, you had Asians coming in, you had Americans, you had a lot of Brits, you know. So who knows what kind of background you might have. Well, you do know, you know from your DNA.
Well, we will. We haven't got the results yet.
Oh,
okay. It'll be interesting because sometimes it surprises people. Sometimes it doesn't. It's funny, in Germany, people look at me and they see German. In Spain, they look at me and they see Spanish. I don't know why, but people assume I'm Spanish here.
Yeah, I've also I've sung in a lot of different places where people mistake me for a native of that particular, for Italy, for example. Often people think I'm Italian. And
oh yeah, I can see that.
I do know that, what do I know? There's a bit of English in there. I have heard from this new section of the family that I'm about to meet that there's Native American, Cherokee, my blood as well. And I am very curious to see what else.
Ooh, I'm very curious to find out, yes, because all of my DNA and everybody I know's DNA has never had any American in it, because, of course, my entire family doesn't have a drop of American blood in them, you know.
Well, Native American is, you know.
You never know.
You not never even know.
Yeah, not Native American. I meant actual, you know, white American blood, because both my sisters.
There is no such thing, because all white Americans came from somewhere else.
Of course, but oh yes, I take this back. My cousin, my American cousin, married he was born in the United States, but both his parents were Croatian, but he married an American, so his kids have American blood. So I do have American blood in my family. It's rather far. Yeah.
I don't think American blood exists. They're from somewhere.
Oh, indeed. Indeed. I mean, Native American is probably the closest you can get. And even by definition, they came from somewhere else.
Yeah. Well,
they came from the Incas, correct?
Well, the Incas, no, it's just they came from Russia, and then they went down, and the Incas came from Russia, and they just went further down.
Okay.
They both came from Russia. I did not know this.
Yeah, everybody came over from Russia, because at the time you could walk. When it froze over, you could walk from Russia to Alaska. It's not that far.
No, it isn't far at all.
No. So
yeah, I traveled between Alaska and Russia, and it was nothing. It was a short ferry.
Yes, it's really not far at all. So they all came from there. But of course, we all came from sub-Saharan Africa.
Actually, that has been disputed widely because they found earlier evidence in other parts of the world. So we don't know that we came from sub-Saharan Africa. We know that we share DNA with sub-Saharan Africa, but we may not have all emerged from there.
Ah, I thought that's where we came down from the trees.
Yeah, no. And we don't even know if we were in the trees because we're not sure how we made the leap. We know that we share DNA with monkeys and apes, but we don't know that. I mean, it's still a theory, the theory of evolution in that sense. And if you look at one of the oldest religions, it was about the creation of man. The claim was that Enki came from a spaceship and he mixed his DNA with that of the early peoples in order to create what is modern humanity. That is, I mean, Enki was one of the earliest gods, long before we invented Jesus and all the others. So we don't know. A lot of it's still just a theory. I'm okay letting the be.
Well, there is, of course, the famous missing link, the actual link between us and apes. And sometimes I look around me and I think, well, that could possibly be a missing link, when I look
Well, that's just, people who don't have the benefit of a good education, unfortunately.
It's true. I'm joking, of course, but
Hmm.
again, education is so important. And the worst thing is try to convince students that education is important.
Do you come from a teaching background, Natasha?
No, I come from a mother background who kept telling me education was important. And, I never got a university diploma because in the United States at the time, in the 80s, to get a diploma, you started like an English diploma. You started with English 101, English 102, English 201, and you went that way. I only took courses I had interest in.
Mm-hmm.
And they were varied. So I did 5 years of uni, but never got an actual diploma for it. And my mother was devastated.
Well,
You
you might get that credited if you really want a diploma. I don't really give a shit about pieces of paper, but I attended University of Minnesota starting when I was 15. Yeah, I was one of those kids. And so I was at university at 15.
Wow.
And I was enrolled in a program called the University Without Walls, meaning I could study only what interested me and still get a degree.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't. We didn't
So
have that at San Diego State
first
University.
degree was, University Without Walls, and I just took the classes that interested me, which meant no algebra.
What's the name
Then
of
then when I went back and got the master's degrees, it was slightly more challenging. And it was also more challenging because I had not learned some of what I should have learned when I was at UWW. So, but I did it, and they were things that interested me. So it worked.
How fascinating. And what degree did you end up with? What was it called?
At the University Without Walls, it was called a liberal arts degree with no specific designation. And then I got a master's in biomedical science and a master's in nutrition.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
That's a fantastic concept.
Yes, both of my daughters have a Bachelor of Science, and my eldest daughter has a Master of Science. My youngest has a Bachelor of Biomedical Science, and the other one has a Master's of whatever science. And neither one of them have a job that have anything to do with science whatsoever.
Me as well, but I certainly used the nutrition degree for myself and my friends.
Yeah, I have a Bachelor of Music, which came in handy for a few years, and not really anymore. But
No.
Do you still want to sing? Do you still want to sing, even with a band or something, just for the fun of it?
I do every now and again. Usually there are a lot of professional ensembles in Berlin and also other parts of Germany that occasionally need professional singers to come in and do like 2 rehearsals and a concert. And I still do that. I don't like the stuff where I have to leave town for 7 weeks because I've got little kids and that's not easy. And I don't love being away from my family, but for, if I have to be away for a couple of nights and I do that a few times a year, that's okay. So yes, I still do sing occasionally.
I have
How
a
many kids do you
question.
have?
Oh, just two.
Do you live in Berlin?
Yes, I'm in Niederschönhausen. Do you know where that is?
Nope.
No.
It's part of Pankow. It's about 10 minutes north of Central.
Uncle.
Yeah.
I have a friend, Gregory Lamar. He is an opera teacher.
Oh,
He comes to the Staatsoper to teach.
Great.
Next time he's in Berlin, let's meet up.
Sure. I love meeting new people, and I love, I still have lots of friends in the industry, and we exchange stories, and just because I don't do it anymore doesn't mean I still love hearing all the gossip.
And one of our friends is Benita, and she will be singing in Elektra in January.
That was my debut in Germany. It was the first opera I ever did in Germany, was Elektra.
Well, I tell you what, join us for Elektra and see Benita sing, and then we'll get together afterwards with her.
Sounds good to me.
And you shall be back in the opera scene.
Sure. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. I will not, Carl, make you go to any more operas.
Oh no, it sounds
I'll
like
go to
Carl.
opera that isn't Wagner. Anything that's
It's
not
not
Wagner, I'll go see anything. And I do. I mean, I saw several in Germany, and I've seen one here that was really, really lovely. It was a local writer who was written his first opera, and it was a Christmas opera. I didn't understand much of the Spanish, but I know pero was used a lot. Pero, meaning but this, but that. So apparently the characters argued with themselves quite a bit. Other than that, I didn't understand a word, but the music was beautiful and the setting was lovely, just in a little experimental theater here. They're trying to encourage people to compose opera again.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. We dragged our neighbor to Meistersinger.
Dragged.
Yes, and at the end of the first act, he went out and he said, "Ooh, that was intense, but really good.
And he thought it was
shall we go out to dinner now?" And had to explain to him that was the first of 3 acts.
Yep. Yeah, it's long.
Yeah. Some of them are long. Not all of them are long.
I did a lot of kids opera when I was in Cologne, though, and that was really rewarding, actually, and really well appreciated. Kids are the most honest audiences. If there's something they want to say, they just say it. These are 6-year-olds, so you'd be singing or doing something, and they would just tell you exactly what they thought right there and then. They were delightful. I loved it, doing the kids opera stuff.
When I was a little child, one of the first shows I saw was Applause with Lauren Bacall.
Okay.
And Lauren comes out and she, her big line is, "Welcome to the theater." I jumped up on my chair and I shouted for everyone to hear, "Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here."
Aww.
Because I was, I think, 4 years old at the time. I mean, I was really young. And she stopped. She walked off stage. The overture began again. She came back out. "Welcome to the theater."
Oh.
Indicating for me to be quiet, and then the show began again. Many years later, I was in an elevator with Lauren Bacall, and I said, "I don't know if you remember this." And she goes, "That was you." And she stage slapped me. For a second, I thought it was real. And she said, "Darling, I owe you everything. I have dined out on that story for years."
Oh, yeah.
So she wasn't hurt by it at all. She said at the time she didn't know what to do. She said, "Do I welcome you as an audience member or do I start the show again?" And the conductor nudged me with his baton, and so I went off stage and we began again.
All right.
But she loved it. She said, I love children, same reason, because they will just say what they mean. And she goes, you were so tiny and you were in my audience, and I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. Yeah.
I'm still tiny, but you know.
I do remember once I was playing one of the wicked stepsisters in Cinderella, and
Oh,
we had to chop our toe off with an axe so that we would fit into the shoe. And we would go backstage, go behind a prop with an axe, and we would make an axe sound, and we'd scream, and then we would come out, and the props department had put a little blood pack in our shoe. So we would come out limping, and then at some point put our shoe in the air for the prince to check that it fit, and then they'd take the shoe off, and there'd be just a little bit of blood, you know, just not enough to freak out the kids. But then one day someone put the wrong size blood pack in my shoe. And so I put the shoe on, and I felt this like squelch that never ended. And I was like, oh, that's going to be interesting. And then when I took the shoe off, blood just gushed down my leg, and all the kids were like, oh, it was great.
Oh, great. Now, children, if you are scared of blood, you know where that came from.
Yeah. Yep.
oh, I was never scared of blood.
No, me
It's
neither. I mean, my
just,
daughter and I used to watch Bones, you know, when they get all these weird bodies, you know, the show with Emily Deschanel and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, Bones. We used to have breakfast while watching those shows of them dissecting corpse and stuff like that. No, neither one of us never really cared about all that stuff.
you know, I read Kathy's books. I know the books very well. That
Me
show is
too.
based.
And you know the wonderful thing that I found? Oh, I'm so excited. Because I'm growing older, I keep forgetting who done it. So every year I reread all of Kathy Reich's books.
How could it be?
Okay, I still remember who done it. So I have a freak memory. I can remember all far more than most people. I don't know why. I don't know where it comes from, but I can tell you about, you know, my favorite meal when I was 3 and 4 years old. I can remember food, and
Yeah.
everything is connected to food in my life. So that kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
If I know what I was eating, I remember the entire conversation.
So this is great because even right now I'm mentally going through all her books, and no, indeed, I can't remember who done it. I'm going to start reading them again this Christmas. Very exciting. It's
Well,
pathetic. I know it's
at the end
pathetic.
of Gone with the Wind, Rhett leaves Scarlet.
Oh, funny you should say that. Last week, Adam saw the whole of Gone with the Wind for the first time.
Oh.
Did he
Yeah.
like it?
Yes, he did like it.
Where did he see it? Was it in a small screen or a big screen?
Oh, lying in bed at
Okay.
home.
Small screen.
That's
Yeah.
one movie I don't want to see on a small screen because it's so beautifully shot. Have you seen it, Kathleen?
Oh, many years ago. So I have almost no memory. I must have been a child when I saw it.
If you ever have a chance to see it on the big screen, it is so artistically impressive what they did in 1939, one of the first Technicolor movies.
Yeah. No.
Yes, there was also I watched a while back a show, of course, called The Making of Gone with the Wind. Pardon. And that was also very impressive. And I have finally, after all these years, I can't find a copy of it, but I have found there was a film that I saw when I was in the United States. It's called The Night That Panicked America, and it was the making of Orson Welles' War of the Worlds, the Halloween show.
Are you familiar with that, Kathleen?
Nope. I'm sorry. I am.
Fictional radio drama that aired in the US, and people believed it. It was about aliens invading the world. And it was fiction, and they announced this, but people tuned in a second later. I think it was real. People were going crazy. There were all kinds of reactions.
Oh my goodness. Oh, right. Okay.
Look it up. Look it up. Orson Welles' War of the World. But in the meantime, it is our show has come to an end, I'm afraid to
Well,
say.
my sound problems, we started 6 minutes late. So my timer has 6 minutes.
Oh, well, then I take this back. I'm just looking at it. 13:29, you see. So
Right. But I had to turn
oh,
the,
I mean ooh,
we
Do
got a
your
gave
rocky
it away.
Oh, Carl is muted. I was just wondering, do your shows always go for 90 minutes?
No, 2 hours.
hours.
For
It's
2
been 2 hours.
It's
yeah.
been 2 hours.
Oh
Yes.
my goodness. Time flies.
Yes, huh?
Yeah.
Time always flies when you're having fun. That's the problem Carl and I had when we were in a studio and we were live.
Mhm.
Our main issue is that we were chatting, and after a while looked at the time and our show had ended 20 minutes ago and we forgot to say goodbye because we were chatting and they were already listening to something else.
It's nice
You know.
when you do your job that much, though, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's why I told you we don't send questions. This isn't a Q&A. It's a conversation. And things come out in the conversation that can be either entertaining or beneficial to listeners. You know, if you're in Germany and you need things translated, they now know who to go to. They know not to go to
absolutely, yeah.
for something serious.
Yeah, no, and I can tell you, Kathleen, that I will definitely be contacting you very well at the end of this show, of course.
The minute it ends.
Absolutely, yes, I need you. I personally need you. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
the organization that you're involved with, that sounds amazing.
I think it will be amazing because it's broad spectrum in that it just doesn't tolerate intolerance. I kind of hate the word tolerance anyway, because tolerance is an ugly word. I don't want to be tolerated. I want to be loved. And I think if we approach our fellow man with love rather than tolerance, then things are better.
Well, yes, tolerance has a negative, I tolerated him.
Yeah.
Definitely doesn't mean I loved him. Okay. It just means that I didn't actually punch him out while he was there, but I thought about it a lot.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see what happens, and sounds like something that Germany really needs.
Yes, I'm not entirely sure I'm entirely prepared yet for it. It was just an idea that came out from having a very good friend who's vice president of one of the vice presidents of LICRA France.
Yeah.
I just felt it was needed.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Yes, I'm just not entirely sure as to what I'm doing, but
what do
I
you
mean,
yourself into?
And sometimes people confuse individuals with politics. For instance, there are people who hate Americans because of American politicians. There are people who hate Jewish people because of Benjamin Netanyahu. And I think it's really important that with LICRA and with any organization of this type, that we separate the people from the politics.
Absolutely.
Embrace people as human. Yeah, our politicians are a nightmare around the world right now. No question. I mean, I think we all agree on that.
oh,
But
absolutely.
the people deserve love and respect, regardless of what the politicians are doing.
But that's exactly the point. I mean, the Israel-Palestinian war that's been going on now for a while. I mean, apparently there's a ceasefire, but don't hold your breath. It is an Israel-Palestinian war, and there are bad things happening on both sides, and I do not agree with either side. But it is not a Jewish-Muslim war. And that is important to point out. It is not at all a Jewish-Muslim war. Okay?
No, it's definitely not. And now we can go around and say goodbye to everybody, because on that happy note, it's time to wrap up our recording. Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us. It was a delight to finally meet you.
It was a delight with you.
Yes, thank you, Kathleen.
We'll probably both be hiring your agency in the future for various things. So I do appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
All right?
Yeah.
Well, from
Goodbye,
me in
Lisa.
Berlin,
Goodbye
goodbye.
from me in Spain.
Well,
And next week, we have a documentary filmmaker who has been chronicling the immigrant experience around Europe for the past 2 years. So that's going to be a fun conversation because we'll learn about different countries and different experiences, not just Berlin, which is where we were focused today. All right. Say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.